Let me double check on YouTube to see that if we are live. It looks like we are. Hooray. Welcome, everyone. Just a disclaimer before we get started. We, I think, have decided that we are not going to actually discuss the American election on this stream. However, I did give everyone an option. Do we want to even have a stream in November? And we all decided that we very much wanted to come and hang out and chill as part of, our various coping mechanisms. So that's what this is going to be. Who is this? This is Luke. Hello, Luke.
He and Leia are so lucky I didn't show up yesterday with a third cat. No, so I went to PetSmart yesterday to get their dry food because they were completely out. And one of the local cat rescues had kittens to adopt, and I'm like, oh look, and there was this very cute tortie, and I love torties, and I was like, oh, you're so cute, you're sleeping so peacefully, but I know you're probably a little crazy like all torties are.
But a tortie,
the thing that kept me from even because I knew if I asked to hold the kitten I'd be a goner, is the holidays are coming up and I don't have time to slowly integrate cats, because Luke and Leia, I don't think they would do well necessarily with a new cat right away, and I'd want to really manage introductions if I got a third cat. So that's why I didn't have a big reason why it didn't happen.
Come here.
Also, I'd technically be breaking my lease because my apartment complex only allows 2 pets.
Okay, Hermes is not a petable. There he is.
Buddy! Our little cryptid.
Every time I try to lift him to keep him in my lap, and he's just just starts flailing. He does the no.
Was he miffed at you at all for leaving him for a week?
So the thing is, my cat sitter, who is my friend, she's fantastic. The cat Hermes always looks like he's better taken care of after I come back home. He just shinier and more he was waiting for me sitting on the couch, and my cat sitter had laid the blankets and pillows in a little fortress for him, and he was sitting in his fortress on a throne of pillows and just judging me while I came through the door. He didn't even come say hello. He just sat there
well, it's you again, huh?
It's you again. Nice of you to show up. Also, she brings him presents. She doesn't bring me presents. But this is a new thing that Hermes did not have.
Oh, it's a kicker.
It's a kicker.
Is it a mermaid?
A little bit.
Okay, so that's the point, but it's cracking me up how you can just see Luke's ears and his eyes.
So speaking of torties being a little bit chaotic, I'm not doing a craft today. We'll get to everyone else's crafts. But Sunshine has clearly been doing crafts, because do you remember several months ago I showed you that one of her favorite toys was this fake ball of yarn toy that was basically a rattle ball wrapped in yarn with a tail? She got the ball out of it and unwound the whole thing.
You have discovered one of the joys of being a cat owner. Hermes does. I now have had to lock up my yarn stash. So I used to have these plastic bins for my yarn and crafting supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're these. They supposedly have child. You know how Tupperware locks up with the lid and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hermes can open the closure.
No,
really? So he started like loosening it up, and now one of the closures in one of the bins doesn't close properly because he's been like playing it so much that it just doesn't close all the way up. And he likes to open it and then dig out all of the yarn from the bin. So that's been fun. So now I've had to put them in like I have these overhead like cabinets. So now all the yarn is in the overhead cabinets where he can't reach.
Okay. So we have had some cat cameos already. We should do introductions. I'm Kelsey. My channel is The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. If you're watching, you are here. You found me. Congrats. And Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Rachel. My channel is Colonati. Not that I'm actively posting on there, but that's my pseudonym on the internet. And typically I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy and nonfiction and talk about it, but I really have just been reading a lot of romance novels this year. Which, you know, it could be worse, so
it could be science fiction romance.
I haven't read one of those in a while. That's probably not my favorite type of romance.
I will say that when there's romance, I like it more in a fantastical setting. For some reason, maybe it's all the Disney fairy tales that I've grown up with or something. But
yeah, I definitely like my romances in historical settings. Like, give me a good queer historical romance with or without fantasy.
Yeah, I find that sometimes some contemporary romance, especially with the focus on certain tropes, they just don't work well. Like enemies to lovers does not work well in a contemporary setting. Like you want rivals to lovers. Like enemies to lovers is very different than rivals to lovers or annoyances to lovers. And it's one of those tropes that I don't think works particularly well in a contemporary setting.
Di, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Diana. I mean, I haven't been reading this month, and we will get to why. But I read a lot of science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction. I have not been reading a lot of romance this year.
We will get to that.
Yeah.
Rhea?
So, hi, I'm Rhea. My channel is The Bookfinch, where you will find 1/4 of these Stitch and Bitch shows each year, because I have not also been posting very much. And I read quite a lot of fantasy and science fiction in various forms, in comics and books. More recently, I have been in a deep webtoon kick, because that is very comforting and there's always lots of stuff to complain about.
I can't wait for the what we're reading section. I hope there's something just crazy.
Oh, in some of the series that I have been reading, the plot thickens. So we will get there.
And unfortunately, we do not have Bree with us this month. However, I get to brag that I saw Bree in person. We went to lunch. We went book shopping. It was wonderful.
Went to Uncle Hugo's without me.
Sorry.
Sometimes Rachel sacrifices are made. We went to Snorre,
but it was very rude because I was flying with like a tiny overnight bag, and I was limited in what I could buy to what I could fit in my purse that I was carrying.
So I was there almost exactly a year ago, and it was the first time I went to their new location. I hadn't been there since before the pandemic, and I was there with my parents. They had never been there before, and I walked in and was like, "Oh, I'm just looking for one thing," and I took one look around and was like, "Ah."
You're not
just
and
the guy sitting at the cash register walked up to me and he said, "Do you need a basket?"
I managed to get away with only 3 books, but like that was still more than I thought I was going to be shoving in my purse to get on an airplane with.
Worth it though. So worth it.
Yeah. Anyhow, I am not crafting. Rachel, are you crafting?
I am. Yes.
Also, Rachel, do you recognize this shawl?
I do. Haven't seen that in a really long time.
It felt like today was the cozy day to wear my Rachel shawl.
Very cool. Yeah, those colors definitely suit you better than me.
They go well with like my purple outfits, and they go well with this couch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's got kind of
buddy.
a little bit of the pink, purple, blue tones, and a lot of the Ava. What did she do?
She's doing the doggy equivalent of airplane ears.
She's just gonna sit back there and stare at me now.
Okay, Sunshine is the only critter who hasn't shown up yet, so clearly she needs to be. Yes, you. Clearly she needs to be summoned. Come here.
Let me. There's Leia.
Ava.
We haven't seen Leia yet either.
Yeah,
Good.
Ava has been incredibly
Leia's
cat-like this weekend. She's like, she wants to nap for about 5 minutes.
You are both talking at the same time, and I cannot hear either.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, Leia's just being lazy and doesn't want to move.
Aw.
Ava wants to go outside every 15 minutes, and then she starts going crazy because somebody's walking their dog, and I have to haul her inside. And she's like, no, let's do it again.
Ava is like one of those. She looks so like a toy dog.
Yeah, and if you look at her the right way, it looks like her head is bigger than her body because she's so fluffy. Yeah, anyway, crafting. I am, I swear that's going to be ahead. I am making a Stegosaurus.
It is so cute.
So this is the
Is
tail.
this the same person who did the pattern for the Triceratops?
Yes, I could see yours back there.
Yes, it's right over there.
Yes. So I needed something free to throw into the White Elephant gift exchange at work in December, so I decided I might as well finally make the Stegosaurus. So, and I just might get it done today, but I'm at the difficult part where I'm shaping the head, and I suck at this, so I'm going to be concentrating on this a lot.
Understandable.
Who else is crafting?
Me. I'm still working on this wrap. I am on the third. My lighting is really bad, so you can't really see it that well. Because I have a cat on me and I refuse to move. But yeah, I'm on the third color. I'm hoping it will get wider when I block it because it feels a little bit more narrow than it should. But we're getting there.
We'll probably get a lot bigger with blocking.
Yeah.
Do you like stretch and pin out, or do you just like steam?
I think with this one I'm gonna stretch and pin out, just for shaping purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I also need to like actually buy a steamer, so.
I just used the heavy steam setting on my iron.
I don't have an iron.
What?
Well, I live in the Pacific Northwest, and if I put on a cardigan, that's me being fancy.
But
don't you have to like iron work pants or anything?
I live in the Pacific Northwest, and me putting on a cardigan with jeans is being fancy.
Rachel, do you want to know something shocking as well? I don't own an iron either.
What?
Like,
whenever I need to iron something, I go to someone.
You go to someone to iron things?
I borrow my friends. I like very rarely iron.
I go
like I work at a university. I am a librarian. I can get away with dark jeans.
I work
I mean,
in
it's
IT.
not like I own a full-size ironing board. I have a little tabletop one that I put on my bed, but at least
Look,
I
if I was actually doing sewing and stuff, I would buy an iron because you need an iron for that. If I was, quilting, I'd buy an iron because you need to iron out the pieces once you've sewn them together. But like,
you need an iron to wear like a whole bunch of cotton and linen clothes.
I know.
Nice.
I
ironing every week, and that's just the clothes. That's not the fabric and the other stuff. Like,
so what I like to do is, like, for example, my button down, I have this spritz bottle, and I spritz it, and then I hang it to dry, and it hang dries like smooth.
Yeah, you also regularly hang your laundry up, though. Like,
well, that is true. I don't have a dryer.
I do
hang
up. There's a lot of things I do air dry and don't put in the dryer. So I think that I don't know. Like, I don't need an iron. I haven't needed an iron ever since I moved to the Pacific Northwest. It's great.
I mean,
I bought an iron and an ironing board like the week that I moved out of my parents' house. Like, it was top of the list, up there with a vacuum cleaner.
So I own an ironing board.
What do you use it for?
Well, in my weak moments, it becomes the ADHD doom chair for my clothing that is not dirty enough to be thrown in the laundry. So it's basically just extra surface that I can pull out of the cupboard and designate as a nest. It used to serve a purpose when I in fact owned an iron, but I have not replaced it since my last iron broke.
Are you crafting anything, Rhea?
Yes, I'm still continuing on my thistle. It's starting to look like a thistle, slowly but surely. I have basically, this has become my stitch and bitch craft for the foreseeable future. I don't like I don't do this in the meantime.
I did finish my pumpkin embroidery that I was working on the last time we were here. I wanted to show it off, but now I have to remember where I put it. Hold on just a sec.
Anyway, I am sorry I broke you about me not owning an iron.
I am just flabbergasted. Like, how...
Me and Di, we are adults. We can do whatever we want.
And
I'm
again,
an
I
adult,
cannot emphasize.
but I have to dress with the corporate dress code, okay?
I work at a university in the Pacific Northwest.
I'm not even...
Like, some of my colleagues wear graphic t-shirts to work.
I can't wear anything that is jeans or even resembles jeans, even if they are a different color. I can't wear anything with a collar that looks like a t-shirt collar.
So I work in IT. Every single person is just casual Fridaying it 5 days a week.
Oh.
Actually, in my floor, it's like an accomplishment if people shower. So, you know.
Oh, that's nice, Kelsey.
I'm only joking, or am I?
I believe
you. Yeah. That came out really nice.
Yeah.
That is nice. That is really nice.
Yeah. I have absolutely no use for it whatsoever. I didn't want to own the thing. I just wanted to do it.
Just, you could...
I feel that so hard.
You could frame it and gift it to someone.
Do you want it?
That's not what I meant.
But
if you are going to embroider something, can I have a request of black cats?
Ooh.
Black cats.
Yes.
I was going to say that Rhea will take the embroidery, but you have to hand deliver it.
Yes, that too. Hand delivery only. Otherwise, it will go to customs. And we just had a sales tax increase, Kelsey. I cannot do customs again. It's 25.5% now, plus 5% customs fee.
Ew.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't send you packages.
Hand delivery only, I'm afraid, from now on. I mean, sure, it will be expensive, like to travel, but at the same time, you will at least see castles and lakes.
This is true.
So I'm going to embroider you a black cat, and then I'm going to go to Finland to give it.
Yeah, that is now. It is now mandatory. Yes.
Okay.
We should make plans.
Anyways, some of us have books to discuss. Who has books to discuss?
Okay, I will say I did read one thing between our last. I'll go first because I literally only have like one thing. Between our last live show and this one is I finished my reread of the Scalomance series. Still slaps. Elle is still my favorite. I will still fight Naomi Novik in a Denny's parking lot over its inclusion on the Lodestar. I say this with love and affection in my heart for that world, but I will fight Naomi Novik in a Denny's parking lot. Yeah, it's just I was discussing in a Discord server about heroines, and I really appreciate with the Scalomance just how angry and grumpy Elle is, and how it's not seen as a bad thing, because a lot of the things that she's angry about are things that you should be angry about, and like her arc isn't necessarily softening her, it's her figuring out like exactly like what is causing that anger and like trying to find ways to fix it. And I don't know, I really appreciate it because because we were talking about tropes with romances, and one of the ones that kind of irks me is grumpy sunshine, because a lot of the times in romance it's the man who is grumpy and mean and the woman who is all sunshiny and manic pixie dream girly. And I appreciate that not only is Elle the grumpy one, she is grumpy for legitimate reasons and not grumpy for the sake of being grumpy. I'm still like, Naomi Novik's romances aren't my favorite things in the world, but friendship is literally magic. I really like the side characters, and there was a short story in her recent short story collection that's like follows some new characters that's set after the Golden Enclaves, and like I need a whole book around that main character, because so the main character in that short story, she's this Polish mushroom witch.
Ooh.
Like the way her family does magic kind of operates on fairy tale logic. So like they're the witch in the woods who like, if a child is good and kind, they get a reward, and if a child is mean, they like get a punishment so they can learn their lesson, type of thing. And so like part of her approach to the Scalomance is like, no, like we can't take more than what we need. Like we take exactly, like we've had very good luck. We have to pay that back by only taking what we came here for. We can't overreach. And she's very cute. She's like this very funny 14-year-old. I really want more in that world. So that's the only thing I've been reading. I have stuff on deck that I want to read, but a combination of the election and Dragon Age has kind of made it so I don't want to read.
Who's next for reading?
I can go next.
Okay.
I thought I hadn't read anything since the last live show, and I looked at my list. I was like, yeah, actually, I just sort of stopped after Election Day. So I did read the newest Flavia de Luce mystery novel. I can't remember the title of these books. They get more and more complicated. What Time the Sexton's Spade Doth Rust. I've loved this series. The first 5 or 6 books are definitely the best, and this is the 11th one. So at this point in this series, a lot of stuff has happened, and I can't really talk about why some of the plot stuff didn't sit quite right with me in this one, because that would just massively spoil like the big plot arc in the first 10 books, basically. But it was nice to be back with the series, especially because I thought we would never get any more books, and I love Flavia. I mean, she's, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old girl who loves poisons and investigating murders in the English countryside. And but there were definitely some things that happened in this one that I'm like, I need to talk to some other people who've read the whole series and be like, do you feel the same way that I do about how things changed in this one? Also, there's this cognitive dissonance of reading what's essentially a coming of age story about a preteen girl navigating becoming a teenager, and it's written by an 86-year-old man.
But is it?
Yeah, Alan Bradley is that old.
But is it good?
It is good.
Does he understand the teenage experience?
I think I have never had an issue with the way that he has written a 12-year-old girl in 1950s Britain. Even though he's actually Canadian and not female. But for some reason, I think because this particular installment is really beginning to tackle the Flavia is not going to be 12 years old forever. She's going to be a teenager now. Like, the time does pass in this series, so she is getting older, and what does that mean? It has a real influence on the way that people interact with her and the way that she can and can't investigate mysteries on the sly anymore. So yeah, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I do hope that there are more books, even though, Lord, Alan Bradley is 86 years old. But it's as much as I love this series, I recommend it for the earlier books. Like The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie is the first book. It's diminishing returns, like a lot of long-running series are. I thought that I was going to go on a big binge of Nancy Warren titles. She's the author of the Vampire Knitting Club series that I talked about ages ago. Super enjoyed that one, and most of her books, I think all of them, are like Kindle exclusives to begin with, so I have to wait like 6 months to a year before the audiobooks show up and Overdrive at my library. And a whole bunch of them just appeared, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start reading these other series, and there's a new Vampire Knitting Club book out, and there's a new Yarn Shop Cornwall installment, and the Flower Shop series is now available. Well, I listened to Peony Dreadful, which has been on my to-read list for like 3 years now, and I was incredibly disappointed. So I don't have everything else on hold right now. I'm just kind of like, am I feeling it? These are very formulaic. It's set in a world where like vampires and witches and I guess werewolves they all exist, and it's very cozy, low stakes, but people die and murders have to be investigated. And this particular one bordered on the twee with so much explanatory descriptive stuff that did not need to be there. It's like half the book was just, let's talk about the people who live in this village and have a shop down the street and talk about the flower arrangements, and not the plot. So it was disappointing because it was just honestly not constructed very well. It was not attention getting. Will I try the next book in the series though? Yes. Yeah, probably. Like, is it first book syndrome where it just gets too bogged down in setting up the setting and the characters and stuff? Will the next one be better? So I read that, and then I read volume 8 of A Sign of Affection, and I'm still super enjoying this series. I still have issues every once in a while because.
Wait, hold on, I have to pin this comment because
oh my God, Jill!
Where is my pin option? There we go.
And that could be a shirt.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Appreciated, Jill.
You win the internet today with that one.
Yeah, we can't top that, you know. Like, that cannot be topped.
What was I saying? Oh, A Sign of Affection. So this is like a contemporary romance manga series following a young deaf woman and a slightly older guy that she meets at school, and they fall for each other and everything. And there's some parts of it that are really sweet and touching, and I just think the characters are interesting. And then there are instances where I'm like, this character, the main character, she does not have enough agency. She's being cut out of too many conversations and stuff. And I think culturally it's just very different because of the way that like her family deals with her deafness and stuff. Like the fact that they never learned sign language is so weird to me. I don't get it. But I still enjoy the series. Yes.
According, like, if I don't know if you've read the portions in the like back for the interviews and stuff for the consultancy, like the consultant that they use for the sign language.
I read the notes when they're there. I don't know if there's anything in the volume I just read.
But they sometimes comment on like or they comment on like the things that they've learned about like the deaf community in Japan, and apparently it is surprisingly common that like people don't like your family. You might be the only signing person in your family.
Huh. Interesting. So, for some reason, my library skipped to volume 10, which I have on hold, and they have not acquired volume 9.
Sad.
What gives librarians?
To be fair, a lot of the time, if, for example, if the volume runs out of print, they don't restock or reprint.
Yeah,
so it might be a publisher issue.
I have more than once like done an interlibrary loan request for a physical manga volume, and it's been denied because there are not enough copies in the system, and the libraries are like, no, this is like out of print or whatever, and we won't lend out our copy.
Yeah.
It's a problem. But these are the ebook versions on Overdrive. So usually the library adds like 3 of them at a time, but that's like, no. So I always click the little bell icon in Libby, and I'm like, yes, notify me when this comes into the system, and that usually like notifies them that somebody wants it. So there are tons of people reading this series. I'm usually on hold, like I have to wait like 6 weeks to get a volume. So there are people who are reading this and want it. So I don't get it. But if my hold on volume 10 comes in and they still don't have 9 in the system, I will just buy volume 10 and read it.
This is how this is what happened with me and Witch Hat Atelier and Delicious in Dungeon, is that at some point I was just tired of waiting for the library holds and playing the library politics to get my hands on any of the copies, so I just started buying the series.
Yeah. I started buying Witch Hat Atelier too with volume 12. I was like, I'm just going to do it.
And now I'm very happy that Delicious in Dungeon is finished, because now I can happily collect the entire series and not have to feel the stress of what if it declines in quality after all the money I've spent on it. It will grace my shelves as one of my favorite series, along with Full Metal Alchemist, and that's high praise.
God, I really want to upgrade my Full Metal Alchemist series to those nice hardbacks. It's
Yeah,
just so expensive.
I'm in that process. It is emptying my coffers.
Rhea, do you
I have
want
this. I have the 789 omnibus checked out from the library right now. I'm hoping to read it before the end of the year. So
Good.
Yes, you
good.
do.
Other things that I read. I read Jump Knots by Hao Jingfang.
Oh.
And so Hao Jingfang is the author of the novelette Folding Beijing, which won the Hugo Award, and she was the first Chinese woman to win a Hugo Award, I believe. And I've always really enjoyed her stuff, you know, the short stories and things. And her first, I think it was actually her debut novel, has been translated. It's called Vagabonds, and it was actually a really interesting, not exactly like Mars colonization story, but set in a future where Mars has been colonized. And I thought it was a really interesting kind of like social sci-fi installment in that genre of, you know, the politics between Mars and Earth and the moon and everything. And once again, very culturally different from what I typically read in that kind of subgenre. So I instantly bought Jump Knots when it came out because it's her second novel to be translated, and it's translated by Ken Liu, and I think he does a fantastic job. Like, I really trust him to render the feeling and the intent and everything well into English. I also really love, this is not really super specific to this book, but the fact that he always has like translator's notes, and he is pretty upfront about how he doesn't translate certain concepts, and he will still use like Chinese words in his translations because he's not trying to make it all English and Western and everything. And I think I really, really like that choice that he makes in his translation. So Jump Knots, though, this was nothing like Vagabonds at all. And if I did not know that, if like her name was not on this, I would never have guessed that she wrote it. It's basically, I might go on a mini rant here about what I didn't like about this. So essentially, it's about a group of 4 people who realize that an alien spaceship has entered the solar system, and it's aliens who have had previous regular contact with humanity over millennia, and they're coming back again, but this time humanity is at a point where they can go out and meet the aliens. So they kind of set out on this semi-secret mission to go contact the aliens before all the warring factions of the world catch on. But like, it could have been a really just fun adventure story, and there's this like whole sequence with them going to the alien ship, and it's and realizing like how the aliens and the alien ship has inspired ancient Chinese cultures and stuff. And I love a good big dumb object exploration thing. I mean, if it's like Rendezvous with Rama, I'm there for it. But this instead, like, the first third of it is forced love triangle, 2 guys fighting each other over the woman who is the only person who actually has a clue of what the heck is going on.
Okay.
And then, like, the core idea of this book is based on freaking pseudo-archaeology and the whole, like, well, ancient civilizations could never have come up with this stuff on their own. They were too, you know, dumb and everything, so it must have been aliens. And I didn't realize how much I hated that idea until I started reading this book.
Please tell me it doesn't have the pyramids were built by aliens nonsense.
That one, no, but it like, I thought it was so cool that Jingfang is talking about ancient Chinese culture and previous civilizations and stuff that I had never heard about, various like real artifacts and stuff. So I'm getting this peek into the archaeology of a country that is actually pretty opaque to the rest of the archaeology world. Like it's actually a pretty hard to get some of this stuff like paleontology and archaeology and historical research and stuff out of China. So to have somebody writing about that history and that culture and then saying, well, these statues were fantastic, but they weren't made by humans. They were not good enough. It had to have been aliens. No, just don't do that. Do I think it's really cool that the alien spaceship turns out to have basically been the inspiration for Chinese dragons or whatever? Like, that's what it looks like. Very cool. But then to be like, oh no, they never came up with any of their own artistic motifs or cultural symbols or anything. It all came from the aliens. And yeah. And then it ends with a big old scene where they like co-opt committees in the UN to get stuff done. I'm like, I don't think that's how the UN works either. So this novel, very weird adventure storyline with gender politics I don't love. It kind of craps on archaeology, and there's a lot of militaristic people being like, how do we take advantage of aliens? So I enjoyed parts of it, but the more I think about it, the more irritated I am. Can you tell?
Love a good rant. Nom, 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 nom.
I do take my archaeology pretty seriously. I mean, I am in the middle of rewatching Time Team, and
I think we talked about that last time. You were
time.
mentioning it. I did not know what that was.
I'm on season 8 of 20 right now.
That's a long-running series.
That's just the officially broadcasted seasons. It's been back as crowdfunded for the last 3 years or so. So it's even more than that. And then something I enjoyed a lot more than that. I read the first part of a graphic novel by Reimena Yi. It's called The Carpet Merchant of Constantinia. I read her graphic novel, My Aunt is a Monster, last month, I think. I just randomly read it because it was something that Shannon from That So Poe had recommended ages ago, and I finally got around to it. And I was like, oh yeah, I really like her storytelling and everything. So I've been getting this graphic novel from the Interlibrary Loan, and it's very interesting. It reminds me a little bit of like the textile focus from a Bride Story. It's kind of that area of the world, but I think it's 17th century. I think it's in modern day Turkey, actually. And yeah, this first half of it is, I thought it was just historical fiction. There is apparently a kind of vampiric supernatural aspect to it as well, but it's about a woman who wants to be a carpet merchant. She marries a man. They kind of have an arranged marriage. They're in love. They work really well together. And it's kind of their backstory of their relationship and their business. He's the he's the merchant. He's the seller who goes out and does the public stuff. And then he gets bitten by a vampire.
Okay.
And now I got to get the second volume because it ends on this like, devastating note. It's like this beautiful love story of people running their business. And
so when he gets bitten by the vampire, does he turn into a hot twink, or like what is the curse of the vampirism that's happening?
50s. And he's sad and he's devoted to his wife and he didn't want any of this, but now he's a vampire and he can't live in society. And he's like, what am I gonna do?
But what kind of vampire? Like, is the curse like Nosferatu?
The tortured kind.
The Nosferatu kind, where you can't show yourself in public because of ostracization?
He looks completely normal, but he lusts after blood and he can't really be in sunlight.
That just sounds like a regular person on Reddit.
I think he's slightly less radicalized.
Also might be true.
Not to be too spoilery about things, but apparently he goes off to like find himself as a vampire, and he comes back in this end sequence when his wife is dying, but he comes back as a shape-shifting cat to be with her in her final years. So good.
I do love me a shape-shifting cat. Speaking of cats. What the? Oh my god!
Sleepy baby.
Sleepy.
He's looking at me.
Well, mine's looking at me too, but she's not sleepy.
Yeah. I have now talked for an incredible amount of time. I'm sorry. I read one more thing, A Scatter of Light, by Melinda Lowe, which was another thing I didn't care too much for. I really loved Last Night at the Telegraph Club. That's just an excellent queer coming-of-age historical fiction novel. And this is set in the same world, but it's set in California right after same-sex marriage is legalized in the U.S., and it's once again kind of a coming-of-age teenager realizes that she's probably a lesbian, has an interesting experience over the summer. I thought I was going to love it, and then it turns out that a whole lot of the storyline is based around cheating.
So
and
not loving it then?
I got the point of the story and like the journey that the main character is going on, but it was really hard to get through some stuff in that book knowing like they should not be doing this, and it's bad and it's wrong, and they shouldn't be making these choices, and it's gonna fall apart. And then it falls apart and you're like, well, I told you so. Anyway,
look, sometimes teenagers need to make stupid choices,
and that I think is what the book is about. So
yeah, I think actually like that brings up interesting point about like books with young protagonists as well, is that like a lot of the time like it feels like there's almost like this pressure on some authors to like make the protagonists aspirational, which I think is kind of like lacking trust in the readership to understand. Well, actually I take that back. The reading comprehension seems to have gone down in recent years. We're having debates on TikTok whether certain.
We are having book talk drama.
Yeah.
I haven't posted anything on TikTok, and
the same book talk. What is this drama? What is this discourse?
It's the same book talk. Book talk is having the same drama that BookTube had many years ago about people realizing that people might be political and that books might be political. Can't we just have fun?
My experience of TikTok is that the algorithm hasn't actually shown me any of the bad videos, right? The algorithm has only shown me the people like clapping back at the bad videos with either smart or snarky responses.
That's all I ever got on BookTube too. I never like saw a lot of the original stuff.
I saw a lot of the original stuff as well.
I never went down that rabbit hole. Didn't need that.
We've been talking about this in Muddiness's Discord and how it's kind of tied with the whole, well, why are you critiquing X book, mostly like a romantasy or a dark romance? I just want to read with brain off. And it's like,
and it yeah.
Here's
like,
the thing: you
I
are
don't think
allowed
your brain was
to
even on in the first place, but okay.
You are allowed to read brain off if you so choose, but
why are you
complaining about it?
Light that some of those book talkers voted for Trump, and they don't want people being political about books on TikTok because they want to vote however they want and read their fantasy books about tyrants and taking power with their brain off.
I think the other thing too is
the optics are not great.
No, it's more of the type of books that people say are brain off. Like, they're very much, when you look at them, like when you like actually look at them, they fall apart in a lot of different ways. And they're designed for people, for people who are functionally illiterate, it feels like.
Also, I would like to point out a flaw in this thing. Brain off for whomst?
Yeah. Like for
because
me,
like a lot of people have a very different reading experience. Like for example, I sometimes can't read a lot of the very aggressively heterosexual books and aggressively binarily gendered books that for many people, like especially in the romance genre, that for many people that there is no acknowledgement of any kind of marginalized identity within the story. Like it just like is this vacuum, and those kinds of books are just not enjoyable for me, because that is like it just basically like this is like a tiny narrow sliver of the human existence, and it just does not resonate in any sense whatsoever. So I can't even escape into it, because it's not like that is not something I want to escape to, if that makes sense.
Anyways, this is book talk discourse that I have not participated in because I'm only seeing one side of it. But it's happening.
It's nice that we are having these circular topics no matter what. Like it just moves the platform. It's like
it's the same discourse over and over again.
Okay. I can talk about what I read next.
Yes, please.
I will fetch. Yeah. Sorry, Hermes. Oh, hi. Yeah. Guess what? Got published. It is Barbarities, Volume 4, and guess what? It finally ends in this volume. Tsutasusu has managed to finish the series. After 3 volumes of complaining that, oh, this was supposed to be a one-shot, I guess I'm doing a second volume. Oh, this was supposed to end as a duology, I guess it's volume number 3. Now she actually finished it. And our main lovers finally get together in this one, and it was wholesome, and Joel turns out to be a little bit of a he is more into some stuff than previously established or previously anticipated. I was very happy.
If you don't know, this is smut.
Oh yeah, I figured. It is, but it has a very detailed and complex political storyline, which involves assassination attempts, rigging of judges, and trying to basically instill a puppet dictator in place of the rightful king.
Right, because reading is political.
Yes, and at the same time, all of that is a vehicle for the smut to happen.
Which is also political.
Because it's queer.
Because it's queer as heck. I will say also that
I don't want to participate in the TikTok discourse.
I will say that in all of the volumes, like I find it funny that in order to meet the quota for the smut, for this to be considered smut, as in the publication, because this was published in a monthly magazine for women, basically the secondary couple is having to get down and dirty, because the main couple is such a slow burn that they're not doing anything. So it's basically just like, okay, I'll include more stuff for the second couple so that they can do the smut while these two are like pining for each other.
Oh, I do actually want to finish that series, but it is on my list of things that I'm not sure that I want the librarians to see me request.
I was so excited when I saw that this had come out. I was just like, okay, yoink, and I went with this to the in the comic book shop. I went to the counter and I just slammed it on the counter, and the guy just looks at me and was like, Okay, and it's like wrapped in plastic, and it has the parental advisory tag, and then he just scans it, and it's like, okay, have fun reading it. I'm like, yes, I will. But yeah, that I finished. I'm very happy. And then I'm still continuing on with the Iris Kelly Doesn't Date and the Mortal Follies. I have been consistently reading through them, but I don't know. For some reason lately, visual media has been easier for me to digest. So I am more about the webtoons and comics at this time. Which I should say that I've been continuing Remarried Empress, which came back from hiatus a few months ago. So I had all of these chapters to binge, and shit is going down. All of the consequences are happening. The dominoes are falling. People are losing positions. Empresses are getting ousted. People are getting guillotined left and right. It's insane. It's fantastic. Highly recommend. And in the other problematic or the problematic webtoon that I have been reading, which is the Betrayal of Dignity, the main couple has just had, in the most recent chapters, they have just had a showdown where the main female lead pointed a gun at the main male character and threatened to kill him because why can't he just leave her alone? And I'm still being like, so how are you gonna turn this into like these two getting back together? Because there's like a lot of like threatening and violence happening, or like allusions to violence that I am still unsure about how it's gonna translate to get-togetherness.
He just gets a lobotomy or something, and
I'm not sure, but every single time, this character is a master gaslighter. Every single time she comes down with a very reasonable argument that he's driving her insane and is an absolute garbage man, and he's just like, this is just another way that you are running away from your feelings and you actually love me. And all of the things that I have done have been in my service to loving you. And I'm like, oh my God, man. You are awful. Like, awful, man.
No.
And yet I still eat this shit up like it was catnip. Like, it's like... Like, I know it's bad for me. It's like injecting my veins with grease every morning. It can't be good. And yet I still do it. But yeah, that's it for me, for reading wise.
Okay, my turn. I read The Wood at Midwinter when it arrived for my pre-order. This is...
Ooh.
What?
Susanna Clarke has a new book?
It's tiny, itty bitty bitty. Were you not aware?
No,
I was not aware. I was, in fact, not aware.
Tell me about this
This
thing.
is not, in fact, actually a brand new story. This was previously produced on audio for BBC Radio. This is heavily illustrated, so it is a very short story, and it has a lengthy afterword in the back. So, like, it is a lot. It's shorter than even it looks, just like this. This is a short story.
Okay.
But it's very, very nice. And I kind of almost enjoyed the afterword more than the story, because you get to sort of see inside her creative process and where she draws inspiration from, which is really interesting. It's a wintry story about a girl with like a connection to animals and the woods, who goes out walking in the woods and like has this conversation with the woods about her future. And like there is this question of like fey magic as opposed to saintliness, and how they might kind of be the same thing. and it is kind of maybe a Christmas story. Ambiguous ending that I would have liked a little more from, but lovely to have this, you know, in my collection.
All of her books are getting smaller. That Stranger Norrell was like a brick, and then Piranesi was like a
It's
like that was like a normal book, and then this one is just like, okay,
this is barely a book. This is a short story.
Yeah. She has a short story collection out too.
Yes, and I still haven't read that, but I will someday. It's one of my, you know, break glass in case of emergency books.
Forever projects. Read all the books.
And then then I finally finished reading Long Live Evil, which was possibly my most anticipated release of the year. And like, as a reading experience, I liked this. This was 4 stars, but as my most anticipated release of the year, this was a disappointment because I wanted it to be 5 stars. I haven't had a 5-star read since March. I'm so desperate for a 5-star read. And this just wasn't quite it. I still enjoyed this.
Have you read The Warm Hands of Ghosts?
No.
Read that.
I don't have it yet. Okay, so I have a TBR project that I have to finish by the end of the year. I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about the rest of my reading first. So this is meant to be the first book in a series. Don't know how long the series is supposed to be. It ends on like a particularly chaotic plot development, and like all hell has broken loose. I don't know what I should say about this. This is basically isekai, and the protagonist is a cancer patient who is offered this magical opportunity to save her life if she can go into this fantasy series world and get this flower of life and death that can save her. And she'll be able to return to her life. The problem is, even though this is her favorite fantasy series, she never really read book 1. And it turns out by the end, like, maybe not as informed about certain key aspects of the plot as she thinks she is. And so like she shows up and she's a villainess and she's about to be executed. And so she declares herself a prophet to, you know, using her knowledge of the story to save her life. And like her character development, her character arc in this for me is a little bit frustrating because like her whole problem, and this is the point, is that she doesn't believe the characters in the book are real people. She thinks that like she is real because she's from the real world, and all of the characters in the book, she might come to care for them, and she might have feelings about them because they're fictional characters that she likes or doesn't like, but she doesn't think that she has to treat them like real people. And that has gotten her in a pickle. And I feel like I see where this character arc is going. It just hasn't gotten to like a satisfying point for me yet in book 1. So that's why I feel like this isn't a 5-star favorite for me, but I'll still be reading book 2. And then I read, The Brides of High Hill by Neve Vo. I had this out from the library. This was what I managed to read post-election. And the thing about this is that not only is it very gothic, it is kind of like bordering on horror, with like a big, gory, bloody, catastrophic ending, which I actually found very satisfying. I was like, yes, let there be blood. So I was like, I've been struggling with what to read. Maybe this is my mood. Maybe blood is my mood. So now I am reading certain dark things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that fits.
This also fits in with, and then the other thing I'm reading right now is a buddy read with Joe. We are reading The Fox's Tower and Other Tales, which is a more traditional, like, comfort read type of book. This is by Yoon-Ha Lee, and these are like whimsical flash fiction. But I don't know if my bloody mood is going to last past the end of this book. But this worked really well for me right now because I am participating in a group reading challenge for a Goodreads group that I'm part of. That's a yearly challenge. And the theme for this year is different types of creatures from fairy tales and mythology. And I thought this challenge was going to be so easy for me. I wasn't even tracking it for most of the year. I was like, I will get to the end of the year and I will just see which of the books I've read fits all the challenges. I will assign the books to the challenges and declare that I've finished it. Ta-da.
And it's more challenging?
What?
And it's more challenging than you realized?
It's more challenging than I realized. So the categories that I haven't yet gotten a book for, one is Blood Drinkers. So this is my Blood Drinkers book. And then I need still Ice, Snow, Winter creatures, hybrid creatures. So that is like centaurs, fawns, griffins, sphinx, minotaurs, mermaids, and fire creatures. These seem like they should be easy, yet I'm finding them surprisingly difficult with, like, I'm trying to actually get things off my physical TBR, so I'm going to my bookshelves and trying to find what I have. But, so, hold on. I have stacks of books because I need to hold things up to the camera and have people tell me if they've read them and if they contain certain types of things. Are we game for this?
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, okay. First of all, fire creatures.
So these are books you have read or haven't read?
Have not. I need, these are TBR books.
Okay.
So I think I'll be able to use Within the Sanctuary of Wings for this one. Are the dragons, it's been over a year since I've read a book in this series. Do the dragons in these books do fire? Yes?
I don't know. I never read Beyond Book 1.
What?
I never read Beyond Book 1.
This is the last book in the series.
Yeah, I only read book 1 in that series, and I never read any more, so I can't help you with that.
Same. And in that book, in the first book, I don't remember that the dragons breathe fire because they were
all of the books, and I'm trying to, because like I read To Shape a Dragon's Breath, and those dragons are not fire dragons; they are chemistry dragons.
Chemistry is a fire-related thing. Each chemical reaction is a spark, kind of, maybe, if you squint.
Yeah, I mean, they can make fire if you do the right chemistry for fire, but that's not what the dragons do in that book. I know there is like, I feel like I remember there is something with fire. This is just like a memory thing. I should remember if the dragons in these books do fire. I have read the first 4 books. I was hoping this would be an easy confirmation of like, yes, Kelsey, of course there's fire with those dragons.
I think I only read the first 2, but I have this feeling that like not all of the dragon species.
All I need is one species that does fire. Just one.
I don't know.
Not sure if in that book.
Doing fire.
Not sure if in that book.
Darn, I don't have anything else. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to move on to my next stack of books.
Have you read Inheritance Cycle? I'm pretty sure the dragons in that series breathe fire.
No, don't read
I
those.
read the first one when I was a teenager and I hated it. Or I disliked it.
Oh, that.
I didn't read the rest.
Inheritance Cycle.
You mean like Aragon?
So
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the name of the series.
No, we have confirmation in the chat. Definitely no fire in the 5th book.
No fire in the 5th book. Okay. We're gonna go back to the drawing board for that, and we're gonna work again. But we're on to ice, snow, winter. So this is one again where I should know because like over a year and a half ago, I read this much of The Way Past Winter by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, and there's definitely like winter folklore in here. But I don't remember if there's ice, snow, winter creatures. Like there is an endless winter, and there are like magical people.
So there needs to be creatures.
That's the question. Is I don't know if these like magical fairy people or whatever are actually ice, snow, winter creatures or not.
Never heard of that book, so.
Darn. Okay.
Have you read The Snow Queen?
Have you read Spinning Silver?
Do I have a print copy? No, the whole point is to get things off my TBR. The whole point is like if I wanted to go get something from the library that had ice, snow, winter creatures or fire or whatever, I could do that a million times. It's not the point. The School Between Winter and Fairyland by Heather Fawcett.
Never
this has winter in it. Does anyone know? Anyone know if there are ice, snow, winter creatures? No? Okay. Next.
You're playing hardball because none
The
of
Raven and the Reindeer. Some of you have surely read this one. This is a Snow Queen retelling. And does it have ice, snow, winter creatures?
Never read it.
Well,
if it has reindeers are
they're not
creatures.
Mythical, Rhea.
Okay.
No, it is a Snow Queen retelling, so the Snow Queen herself should count.
Dragonettes and other spoilery things.
What?
In the chat, someone is saying the 5th Marie Brennan book actually does work for Snow.
Okay, so I can read this even if it's not for fire creatures. Okay. Ta-da! So I get to put aside my stack of books with winter, snow, or ice in the title, where I was asking if they have. Okay, my next stack is for hybrid creatures. Hold on.
Where is my...
And here is the thing that makes this challenge so tricky. Like, a couple of these, I know I could justify it, but I don't know that they fit the spirit of the challenge in terms of it being a mythology folklore creatures challenge, because some of these hybrid creatures aren't like specifically hybrid creatures from mythology or folklore. The one that is, but I'm worried that I'll get into a reading slump, I like a couple years ago read all the way halfway through the Dark Lord of Dirkholm, which has griffins. I was not enjoying it. And I don't know.
I feel like I, back in the day, liked Year of the Griffin better. One of the two of them I absolutely adored. But yeah, they've got griffins.
So I could try this again. Granted, the first time I tried, I wasn't liking it. So given that I'm sort of on the edge of a reading slump, this could be a bad move. So, but I also would love to get it off my TBR with its bookmark sticking halfway through it. So that's an option. The other thing that I worry could put me in a reading slump, just because the first book in this series, I liked it, but it was really slow paced and it took me a long time to read. The Beast Warrior, which is the second book in the Beast Player series, they're both bind-ups of 2 books of the original Japanese. But this is one where, like, the royal beasts in these, they are like winged wolf creatures, but they're their own thing in this fantasy world, and they're not like from pre-existing mythology or folklore. Same thing, I think, but if anyone has read The Wonderling by Mira Bartok and can tell me about it, I know that the characters in this are like human animal hybrid children. But I don't know if there's like any folklore or mythology bent to it, or if it's just like animal people.
I have not read, so.
Okay, moving on. I have a stack of things out from the library. I'm just going to hold them up and ask if any of you know if they have A, hybrid creatures, B, fire creatures, C, ice, snow, winter creatures.
Well, you already have your ice, snow, winter creature.
I already have my ice, snow, winter creatures. So fire creatures or hybrid creatures.
No, there's evil unicorns, but I don't know if those count as a hybrid.
I don't
What
think they count
counts
as
as a hybrid? What counts as a hybrid?
Also,
I don't understand this.
I really want to talk about Dragon Age, guys. I really want to talk
Okay, I will get there. You will have, I promise, at least an entire half hour.
No idea.
No?
No idea.
I feel like I should know this.
There's a mammoth in it.
I mean, there are like ghosts of creatures, but they're not hybrids.
Okay, and they're not.
You know,
fire.
you could read the hot new romanticy sensation Bull Moon Rising, which is a Minotaur romance.
Guess what was in my Kindle recommendations recently?
You can also always read
something that's hybrid. It's, you know, very current.
You can also always read Morning Glory Milking Farm.
Oh dear.
It's not as wild as the name would suggest, or the cover. It's actually quite wholesome.
So far, I think I've got my ice creatures, and if I do Dark Lord of Dirkholm, I definitely have my hybrid creatures, and then fire. Oh, I also have, does anyone know if the City in Glass has any mythical creatures of any sort?
I haven't read it yet.
Okay. Because that's my last pre-order of the year that I haven't read yet. Okie dokie. Di, why don't you tell us all about Dragon Age?
Okay, so that's
avoiding spoilers as much as possible.
I will not talk about spoilers. I will not do spoilers. Anyway, Dragon Age came out on Halloween. I finished the game on November 7th because I took some days off And then
Even then, how did you do that? Like, when did you sleep? When did you eat?
So here's the thing. There is a absolutely horrendous cold that is going around where I live, and I caught it the last week, and I was out. So I had taken the 31st and the 4th off. And I didn't play over the weekend because I was in Portland with my dad, because that's the other thing I've been consuming is NWSL playoffs, baby. Washington Spirit are going to the finals. They won on penalty kicks. I wanted to throw up. It was really stressful, but we did it. They did it. Go Spirit. Anyway, so I played pretty much all the 31st and the 4th, and then I got literally did get sick. So pretty much all I did to disassociate from the election Tuesday through Thursday was mainline the game. And in terms of what I ate, I did eat. I mostly did soup because I could batch cook that and it required minimal effort.
I'm just imagining you sitting there bowl of soup, chugging the DayQuil while playing.
I didn't do I did Robitussin. Anyway, so I finished it, and I am now on a second playthrough to try some different decisions because it's a BioWare game, and you make certain choices, so I'm making different choices this time around. And for the most part, I really liked it. I do have some quibbles, particularly how some stuff from previous games was brought forward. So it's not, I don't think it's really, you've been through character creation, right? So you've seen this. But
I have seen Warwick and Bianca.
But in terms of choices that you bring forward from the third game, Inquisition, you only really bring 3, and I think that was a missed opportunity. So the only 3 that you bring, so you can customize your Inquisitor because they do show up in the game. So your protagonist from the game 3. But then the only 3 decisions you carry forward are who you romanced, whether you kept or disbanded the Inquisition, and are you trying to redeem or stop Solus at all possible costs. And there are certain things that I think could have been brought in because they're very much writing around what people's individual world states might be, and it was really frustrating at times. I also think there probably could have been more about your protagonist's backstory, who they were before the events of the game. I think it actually could have been really cool if you had a mission tied to why you ended up working with Varric and Scout Harding at the start of the game. I think that could have been a really cool opportunity to kind of explore the consequences of your actions. Because that's something that I think Dragon Age Origins did really well is when you start the game, you're playing through your origin. How did you end up joining the Grey Wardens? And some of them, Human Noble, are just kind of okay, your standard fantasy backstory. But then there are others, both of the dwarf origins are fantastic. And the city elf origin in particular, there's a line that you can choose because something happens and your cousin gets kidnapped and raped. And she asks, did you kill them? And you can reply dogs. And it's just this very impactful line given how elves are treated. Anyway, so I wish we had something to tie into that. But overall, I really loved the characters. I think this is the first Dragon Age game where I actually really liked all the companions because in the other 3 games, there's always a companion that I'm just I don't really like you. In Origins, it's Oghren. No one really likes Oghren. In Dragon Age 2, not counting Sebastian because you have to pay to get him, I'm sorry, I do not like Anders. Anders is worst person you know makes good point for me. Where the good point is committing domestic terrorism and blowing up the church with the bishop inside, essentially. there's reasons for that, and I do agree with him, but it's very much worst person you know makes good point.
I mean, to be fair, everyone has their least favorite character in each of the games. For example, in Inquisition, mine is Solas. And I was very happy that...
In Veilguard, I really like all of the companions. Like, in in all the other games, I'm always, like, very rarely taking certain companions with me. Like, I very rarely would take Oghren. I didn't always, unless I needed healing, I wouldn't take Anders with me. With Inquisition, I very rarely took out Blackwall because I didn't like Blackwall. And in this one, I'm just like rotating through all the companions. Oh, I love Varric. Anyway, but I'm rotating through all the companions. Their banter is great. If you don't romance certain companions, they end up hooking up, and it's very sweet. And at one point you can give romantic advice to one of your companions who's romancing someone. It's very cute. And like, I actually want to romance everyone. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, there are certain companions in other games where I'm just like, I'm not really interested in romancing you. And in this one, I'm like, you know what? I do want to fuck that old man. I do want to break his hip. One of the companions, Emmerich, he's this older necromancer. He's very polite and very sweet. And I'm like, when I first started playing,
is he actually old enough to have like osteo problems?
He's in his 50s.
So not old enough to have osteo problems.
Yeah.
If he takes care of himself.
Like, I actually want to romance all the companions, which is a rarity in these games. There's almost always a companion. It's like, no, I don't want to romance Jacob. I don't want to romance Miranda for Mass Effect.
Okay. So I get that there's a lot of romancing. This is like pretty much a dating simulator. What is the plot of the game that gives you 70 hours of game time?
Going into serious spoilers. So one of your companions from Inquisition, the one Rhea doesn't like, Solas, it turns out he is an elven god. He is Fen'Harel, the Dread Wolf. He's a trickster god. This is where I disagree. Solas is like in my trio of terrible men that I unfortunately really enjoy, along with Anakin Skywalker and Loki. Really? Did nothing wrong. I am their defense attorney, and we are entering a plea agreement because they did exactly what they're accused of. Sorry. And one of the things he did was create a veil between the Fade, which is like the magical area, and the real world to imprison the other elven gods. And unfortunately, he like went to sleep and then woke up, and he's like very dissatisfied with how the world is, and he wants to tear down the veil to kind of return the world to what was. And so Veilguard takes place like 8 to 9 years after the end of Inquisition, and your main character, Rook, who can belong to 6 different factions, or like one of 6 factions, is working with a character from previous games, Varric, and another character, Lace Harding, to stop Solas. And the very beginning of the game is you trying to stop Solas's ritual, and things go very, very wrong. And you accidentally unleash 2 of the elven gods, Elgar'nan and Gillenane, who are awful people. And so Solas is trapped in the Fade, and you can communicate to Solas in like your dreams, because like you have a connection, and you have to do the BioWare thing of recruiting characters and trying to stop the end of the world. I will also say one of the things I really appreciated is it's very much like, no, saving the world is not an individual effort. It's a team effort. We all have to work together. We all have to support each other. And like during election week, I really needed that. I'll also say there are certain choices that happen particularly late in the game that I made a choice and I saw the consequences of that choice, and I spent pretty much the entire last part of the game sobbing. I was in a very fragile emotional state because like I had been kind of numb since Tuesday night, and so this was like the first thing that like made me release pent up emotions. So I think that was part of it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I know we're not getting another Dragon Age game for a while because BioWare is switching its focus on the new Mass Effect game, but hopefully it won't take another 10 years. Hopefully EA doesn't be like, no, you need to have a multiplayer live service game. Oh no, people actually hated BioWare's attempt at this. What do we do? And I'm hoping EA is like, you know what? Just keep doing single player RPGs. But yeah, Dragon Age is great. I really love it.
Are the dragons fire dragons?
Some of them.
There's multiple different types.
There aren't as many dragons as an Inquisition. There's a blighted dragon that shows up, which is a pain in the ass. Oh yeah, so the thing is with Dragon Age, so it is not like it draws whatever it wants. It's very like it's fantasy. Everything's fake and in Thedas. But one of the things in the world is the blight, which is it's like a disease essentially that infects the land, and it can infect living creatures and turn them into darkspawn that are like kind of zombies but kind of not. And there's this faction called the Grey Wardens that fights the darkspawn. And then there are 7 archdemons, and if an archdemon wakes up, then it's a blight that's trying to destroy the world. The blight is particularly gross in this game. It's like,
yay! I hated the blight in Inquisition.
No, the blight is disgusting in this game. Like anyone who says that Veilguard is like moving away from or like horror type stuff, like has not gone to the Hofburg wetlands. The blight is fucking gross.
One of my least favorite experiences in any Dragon Age game was playing through the oh my god, which Dragon Age it was? Was it number 2? Anyway, the one with the Broodmother storyline.
Oh, that's
where
Origins.
You go. Oh, I have forever hated that. I had to actually go and watch a playthrough of it to kind of like hype me to finishing it myself, because I was getting so anxious that I needed someone to have like, you know, done it, that I saw that they did it so that I could do it. It was awful. But story-wise, it's one of my favorite things in any Dragon Age game is the Broodmother storyline. But I hated playing it.
Yeah, so speaking of the Broodmothers, everyone's like, oh, I really want like a remastered Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. Like, do it like Mass Effect Legendary Editions. I'm like, yes, but also I don't need remastered Broodmothers.
No, thank you.
No, like, they are disgusting. Like, anyway, but yeah, so the blight is back. The blight is terrible. Oh my god. So speaking of the wardens, Rhea, there is a couple. So there's a married warden couple, Antoine and Evka, and they are adorable. They like are so good. I love them so much. I can't wait till you meet them.
I have my next weekend blocked out of all social engagements so that I can finally start Veilguard, because for those of you watching, I have in fact spent 3.5 hours in the character creator creating my character, and did not yet play.
What class faction?
So a Qunari, of course, and because I just like the horn aesthetic. Yeah. My first character in Baldur's Gate 3 was also a tiefling, you know. So
I did a dwarf because dwarf is always my first playthrough if I get a choice.
Yeah, and then they're a warrior, because my play style is usually very hack and slashy. I just like to beat shit up.
Warriors, I'm currently playing a warrior. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then what was my faction? Oh god, it's been a while since I created this. They have the black like the aspirational armor is the black one. They're kind of the shadow organization.
Shadow dragons? Or aren't even crows?
Which one?
Crows, they're the assassins.
Yeah, I think crows.
Okay. I haven't done crows.
I just meow.
What?
Did someone's cat just meow?
No.
I don't think so.
Luke is eating.
Maybe it was my elbow joint.
Leia's being a lazy bum.
Okay.
Where's Sunshine?
Because I thought it was Sunshine, and then I look at her, and she's just snoozing on top of her cat tree. Okay, never mind. Continue.
Yeah, so my first rook was a dwarven rogue warden. Wardens are a lot of... I recommend doing a warden at least once because they get a lot of content. And then my current one is an elf warrior Morn Watcher because I wanted to do like a little bit of necromancy spooky stuff.
What am I doing? No!
Yeah, Dragon Age is great. I love it. Unfortunately, like I said, I do still very much enjoy Solas as a character, even though he makes terrible choices and should not be excused from his terrible choices.
I can agree that Solas is like a well-written character, but he's kind of in the same way like completely different in terms of like deplorable actions taken by this character. So don't like, but in terms of like my enjoyment, it's similar. So Griffith from Berserk, I think he's a well-written character and especially as a villain, very compelling. But I detest him because I just like, for me, it's very uncomfortable to read about a character's point of view who kind of holds supremacist viewpoints. Yeah. And that is one of the reasons why I don't enjoy Solas, because he is an elven supremacist, which is understandable given that he is in fact the Dread Wolf. But like, just makes me a teensy bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like I said,
which is why I never romance him when I play an elf character. I just deliberately, I'm like, you're not touching me.
What? So in Inquisition, you don't know. He is one of your starting companions.
Oh.
Yeah. And you do not.
The twist in Inquisition is that he is the reason the plot happened in the first place. And that he is a god. Because like
so you could romance him and then get super squicked out afterwards.
But the point to the romance of Solas is that you can only romance him, if I remember correctly, if you are an elven woman.
Yeah, because he was a late addition. Part of it is he was a late addition as a romanceable character, and they were worried about playing into evil bisexual tropes. My headcanon is that there's a character who you meet in one of the novels, Philasan, who is like Solas's right-hand man / general. My headcanon is they had a long-term thing and like stuff happened and it fucked Solas up where he's like, I can't be with another dude for a while. That's just my headcanon. Anyway, my current Veilguard run is with a Solas romance just to see what happens. My first one was with my Dwarf Inquisitor who romanced Iron Bull.
I romanced Iron Bull I think in 50% of my Inquisition playthroughs I romanced Iron Bull. And I played Inquisition like 6 times.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So I've human mages, I always romance Cullen because I like the story with that. As in one of my elves, I initially made her to romance Solus, but then I started playing her. I'm like, oh, you were like an extreme butch lesbian, and she ended up romancing Josephine. I've romanced Bull. I romanced Cassandra. I made an Inquisitor just to romance Cassandra, and he had no other personality. He was just like there to be a simp for her. Here's the thing. I don't like playing male characters, and there are certain romances in Inquisition that are like also in Origins with Morrigan, but there are certain romances where like you can only romance people if you're playing a male character, and so like I did that. I also romanced Dorian, which potentially my next playthrough will be the Dorian romance.
So I have this thing where I have the opposite problem. I dislike playing as female characters. I will always go for a male character over a female character if androgynous options are not available. So like most of my playthroughs in Inquisition were as male characters. And the number of saves that I've left unfinished, almost all of them were the female characters I created. When people complain that you should play like what the devs give you and not worry about the character creation options, like I strongly feel like there are just certain types, especially in role-playing games, that you just can't relate to the experience, and then it makes you uncomfortable to play that character.
Well, one thing I actually really like with the Veilguard is they do give you NB options, so you can be non-binary, and depending on if you're NB or trans, there are certain dialogues that unlock based off of that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I made my Rook an MB.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Do you have any other media?
I also finished Agatha All Along.
Oh.
I started watching Arcane, so I would like to talk a little bit about that after Dai has talked about Agatha.
Yeah, I won't talk too much about Agatha All Along. I thought overall it was one of the better Marvel shows. The finale, the structure was a little odd, but I thought that what it did at the end was fun, and I do hope it gets like a second season or a continuation because I deeply love Catherine Hahn as Agatha.
Rachel, you look like you're trying to say something, but you're muted.
I muted myself so you can hear my clicky-clacky typing, and then I forgot. I need a opinion from you guys on this. Yeah. Does that look suggestive?
A little bit. Tiny bit. Yeah. Now that you pointed it out, it's a little...
Oh, God. I followed the pattern. I was like... Dang, no.
It's a little bit, out there. My thistles are thistling. I got so much progress.
Ah, nice. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do the
less suggestive.
I'll have to figure out the geometry of the Triceratops. I was like, that is just, and I know I did it right. So. Okay, continue.
So,
Rhea, did you have other media to discuss?
Yeah, so Arcane Season 2 started. The first 2 arcs are out, and the third is coming. The last 3 episodes are coming next weekend. And I love that without going into major spoiler territories about the first or second season, Arcane has the messiest lesbian breakup, and I love it. And I'm living my best life with this series. I finished my Arcane season 1 rewatch just in time to start watching the second season. I'm probably actually immediately after finishing the second season, I will need to go and rewatch it because there's already a bunch of stuff that I feel like I'm not catching. I will say that like this is the last season of Arcane. Like they have deliberately made it so that it's only 2 seasons, because Riot wants to expand the League of Legends lore and that kind of thing, and basically do these kinds of shorter series, possibly with other studios, not just Fortiche. It's unclear whether Fortiche is going to continue with the rest of the projects in Riot's like this media thing that they're trying to figure out. But basically the next series are going to focus on other parts of Runeterra than Piltover and Zon. So this is going to be the last season regarding like the stuff happening in the Piltover region.
So wait, is it still going to be Arcane, or is this is 2 seasons of Arcane and then a new show?
Arcane. This is the final season of Arcane, so it's League of Legends Arcane. So then the next thing is going to be League of Legends something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's basically they're trying to also tie in the all the lore, and basically the kind of the media tie-ins like Arcane is are gonna be basically the canon lore from now on. I don't know how they're gonna do it because like the Runeterra lore, like League of Legends lore, is super complex, especially when you start counting in the Star Guardian and Valorant bullshit into it as well. Anyway, the season has been really good. I'm really enjoying it. I have gotten emotional quite a number of times. It's like I do feel like I would have wished that they went for like a 3-season thing, because then some of the stuff that is in the second season could have been fleshed out a little more. I feel like they're like the season is still really good, but I still feel like it's rushing a little bit to trying to tie in all the loose ends to finish it in 2 seasons. Whereas maybe if they did like 2 seasons and a final climax movie, that would have been maybe. But we shall see. There's 3 more episodes to go, and like let's see how they wrap this up. Also, it's very interesting, I think, that Caitlyn's character in the first season especially is a person who is coming from a place of very like big privilege, and like seeing the plight of the people in Zon, in the Undercity, and kind of coming to terms with like how her family and also like how the ruling class of Piltover is like contributing to that. But then in the second season, it kind of goes to show that if you come from this very entrenched place of privilege and wealth, how difficult it is for you to actually empathize with the people, especially when they're not playing the perfect victim.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting to see her character progression in season 2. Yeah, we're really enjoying Arcane. Worth the 3-year wait between seasons.
I'm glad that they know that they only have like a set amount of seasons. Like,
yeah,
I need to watch Arcane, but I do appreciate when like shows know what their time frame is.
Yeah, I would much rather watch a tightly knit and tightly written show of 2 seasons rather than watch a good show derail itself into oblivion and make me hate it. I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones. Also, I'm looking at you, Vikings, and many other shows. But yeah, that's the media I've been enjoying.
I literally have only one media thing to mention, and that is that I went to see The Wild Robot in theaters, and it's very pretty. I haven't read the book. It's based on a middle grade book. So I can't comment on the adaptation. I thought the plot was fairly predictable, fairly generic in its story beats. It struck me as like WALL-E meets Bambi meets Fly Away Home.
Okay. Paint this picture for me. These different things meet each other in what way? In the trauma or in like the themes?
In like the story beats.
Okay.
You have a lot of beautiful animation of the forest and the creatures in the forest and the animals and everything, and you have the passing of seasons, but you're following a robot character who ends up lost in the forest talking to the animals and ends up raising a goose that imprints on her and has to teach the goose to fly and migrate by fall. And so that's where we get the Fly Away Home comparison.
Does the goose survive?
Yes.
Okay.
There is an older goose character who does not survive, but the gosling survives.
Okay, so that's where the Bambi thing comes in.
No, the Bambi thing comes in with the beautiful animation of the forest and the changing of the seasons and meeting all the different animals who say hello.
Oh, okay.
And also there's a big fire at the end where like their island burns down and they have to like go across the river and watch the fire, and like the animation feels like it's referencing Bambi a lot.
I will say, when I was little, it was not Bambi's mom's death that traumatized me in that movie. It was the damn fire when Bambi is unable to get up and his father comes in and is like, get up.
Yes.
And just was chastising him.
It's not traumatizing like that. But like there is the scene where like everyone has crossed the river and all of the animals are watching the fire on their island. I'm like, I have seen this shot in an animated movie before. The animation is very, very pretty.
I should probably see it then. You know what is very interesting to me as well, because obviously now that I'm thinking like animated series or animated movies, I'm thinking about dubbing and stuff, because kids movies get dubbed. And I'm thinking Arcane is a rated 16 or rated teen show, and it has a Finnish dub, which is peculiar because Finland doesn't dub things unless they're for kids. So I'm like, why does this series have a dub? And it feels so weird to watch it. Because I watched a couple of episodes back in the day. Like I was like, I noticed it had a Finnish dub, and I was like, okay, I will check a couple of episodes up. And it's the same
Possibly
actors.
A Netflix choice?
Yeah. But it's like interesting because it's like all the same actors, the voice actors who do dubs for all these children's shows, except now they're cursing because it's like geared towards adults. And I'm like, what?
I bet they had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and also who is watching it in Finnish? Everyone I know watches it in English, except they're like me who are like, okay, just for the heck of it, I'll test what it sounds like, and then they're like, oh god.
That's very funny. Rachel, media, we're running a little low on time. I didn't mean to.
I don't have anything that I didn't talk about last time. Still watching Killing Eve on season 2. Still watching Time Team. One of these will end well, the other one will not.
I want to mention that I am finally now on Blue Sky. If anyone has been waiting for me to show up there, I'm now at the Fancy Hat Lady on Blue Sky.
And I know Diana is as well because I've been seeing the sports.
The sports.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I have been watching figure skating. I still don't feel... It's been the Grand Prix series, and it's not been, like, going terribly great for anyone.
I mean, are they just skating very poorly, or is there other drama?
I mean, there was a lot of there was American ice dance drama that's very yuck and burned the whole sport to the ground. But both the Grand Prix de France and Finlandia trophy 2 weeks ago and this week have just had like a lot of good skaters not skating up to their potential. Like the men's event in France was especially dire. I feel like the women this week were pretty good, but like 2 of the top names in the event had to withdraw. So it was just a slightly substandard field for a Grand Prix. There have been major mistakes in almost every ice dance event from top teams going splat on the ice like ice dancers are not supposed to.
Maybe someone cursed this season.
And pairs are just still not good enough. Like the pairs discipline has been struggling, and it seems like maybe this season the pairs were getting it together, but I'm not sure they're getting it together. Anyways.
Struggle bus.
I'm feeling unenthused. I've been watching a lot of skating and feeling unenthused about most of it.
Kelsey,
I will say we were tracking how many Dune programs there were.
How many? I think we were 3 or 4.
We had Smart and Deek's free dance. We have Wakaba Higuchi's short program. We have Adam Xiaohimfa's free skate, and we have one of the Ninas. Which of the 2 Ninas is it? Nina Petrokina, who skates for Estonia, is doing it as her free skate, short program, free skate.
So 4 dunes, is there 5th?
I'm sure there are more dunes at like a less highly competitive level, but I'm just watching like the big events. So
if any of them are particularly good, let us know. Good costumes, good choreography.
I am mildly enthusiastic about all of them, but I haven't. There isn't a runaway favorite for me. It's interesting that other people have commented that part of what is so interesting about everyone doing Dune this season, it's not an original observation of mine. Other people have said this, is that because it is a new soundtrack, people, when you get something that a lot of skaters are doing, often they're all copying someone else who's done it. So they're doing a similar music cut. But because Dune is new, they are all doing very different music cuts. And it's interesting to see which parts of the music everyone's using.
I will say that I found it really interesting, Kelsey, because we've been talking a lot about figure skating and stuff, and it's also something I am interested in. But like on Instagram, because I watch quite a bit of gym content, I have now managed to combine figure skating and gym content and have started receiving like videos or reels about like figure skaters like Yuzuru Hanyu sharing how they train to attain that fitness level to do their like programs, and I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get on this very niche side of Instagram?
My fault. I'm sorry.
But I don't mind it. It's interesting. I was just like,
It is now 4:00. If we want to share where everyone can find us, I am here on YouTube. This is my channel. I had so many videos I was going to be posting this month, and then I cannot bring myself to film anything. But my likewise with TikTok. So but yes, I'm now on Blue Sky because I feel like the moment has happened where it's unavoidable, where, you know, it's not going to be Mastodon for the book community. It's going to be Blue Sky. Follow Sunshine on Instagram at the Fancy Cat Lady Reads. And Rachel.
You can find me on Instagram and on Blue Sky. I'm Collinati or Collinati Books over on both of them. So not terribly active right now because social media, doom scrolling, all that stuff. But, you know, I'm not dead.
Rhea?
For now, you can find me reliably 4 times a year on my own channel hosting Stitch and Bitch, and otherwise on these lovely people's channels participating in Stitch and Bitch. Maybe I will also do the migration to Blue Sky at some point because Twitter is dead to me. I have not actually used it for since the Mr. Melonhead took over, or Melon Lord, depending on which reference you want to use. But yeah, that's me.
And Di?
You can find me Bookish Di. I'm gonna be maybe not deactivating, but like deleting all my tweets. But you can mostly find me on Blue Sky, somewhat Instagram, and somewhat YouTube.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and hanging out and leaving comments in the chat. That is all from us. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll be on my channel next month.
Oh, yes. Bye.
See you.